Welcome back, you guys. This is Mark with NCEngravers, and tonight we're going to be doing a correction on a Glock 21 model slide. Now, there is a reason it's sitting on a frame and it's not in my hand, and that's mostly because there's a logo on this pistol, and obviously we have to do a correction to this pistol. You're going to understand who did the work. I want to explain myself a little better. I want you to sit back and relax. This is going to be a long video, mostly talking, okay? And I want to give you the backstory of the customer. I want you to understand the work. I want you to understand what we have to do as far as a correction, and I want to just kind of give you guys an overview so you understand a little bit more of why are we doing this. What's going on here. So if you're easily offended, more than likely you're probably going to get offended because you're thin-skinned, and that's just how you are. I would highly recommend that you go get a drink some extra, whatever it is you like of your favorite drink, and then come back and listen to what I'm saying. And do not jump to any sort of answer or conclusion until you understand all of this, okay? That's my warning for you. Going into this, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to go out of my way either to bash a company or to go against some sort of company. That's not really in my nature. But I'm also not going to sidestep it and tiptoe around it because that's just not going to happen. So with that being said, let's talk about the backstory. Let's explain how this even got here, okay? Had a customer last year reach out and say, hey, I've got 3 slides I want to have worked on. Really, we didn't get through a lot of those details of what we want to work on until he got here, okay? Keep in mind, this was not one of them, didn't know anything about this. He comes in, we talk about frames. One was a Glock 42, one was, I believe, a full-size M&P 45, and there was maybe a Glock in there. I don't remember. I work on so many, but there was three guns that were brought in, and there was work that needed to be performed on all of them. There was stippling, there was barrel work, there was black nitride, there was cut work. We ran the whole range of what is offered on these slides. Now, the reason I'm explaining this to you is because I want you to understand that sometimes when there's an issue with a slide, and we're going to get into this, it can be somewhat subjective to the person who believes there's an issue and there's not actually an issue at hand, okay? So with me saying that, I'm explaining it a little better going, I learned on the first 3 pistols this individual doesn't really have a problem, okay? So whatever issues are on this pistol, which we're going to discuss, this isn't like this is some tough customer or this is a guy who's you really just can never satisfy. We already did 3 pistols with this guy first go round. That's when this came into play second go round. He reached out to us later part of last year and said, I've got 3 more pistols I want to bring to you. I want to do some work on them. Didn't know much about this. This is the one that we talked about when he came in. So he came back for round 2. This is actually gun number 6. Okay, so we did 4 and 5, which were which would have been brought in at the end of the year, and then this is gun number 6 that we've done for the customer. So we've done a lot of work for the customer. The customer's happy with us. So with that being said, it's not an issue with an individual. It is an issue with the work. I definitely wanted to explain that up front. Once again, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you guys. I'm not going to play Mr. Nice. I'm just going to tell you how it is because that's pretty much in my nature, and that's how I'm going to do it. This gun was done by another vendor here in North Carolina, and it was expressed to me during drop-off that he really wasn't upset about the gun as he was upset about a couple of things about it. One was communication and delivery. Okay, hey, I dropped it off, you gave me a due date, and you missed it. And you didn't just miss it by a couple days, you missed it by like a month and a half. Like, you really missed it. Okay, so with that being said, my encouragement to you is please understand the companies that you are working with and who you're getting into bed with when you're doing work. Now you're going to hear me say that a couple times because we're going to explain that a couple times. So with that being said, please ask those questions up front. If you're getting flagged on, I don't know what the turnaround time is, I don't know what this and that is, there's your first indication that maybe you need to walk from the table, okay? Maybe this isn't the car for you and you need to go. If you went to a dealership and said I wanted to buy a vehicle and you had a question about it and the dealership's like, I don't know, well, they probably know and they're probably not telling you, okay? So you probably need to leave. So there might be your first indication, okay? So that's knowing who you're getting into business with and who you're processing your stuff through. Communication is very, very important. So now let's talk about the actual work itself, okay? Not the work that we're going to do, but the work that's been done. This vendor is DP Custom Works, and they are out of North Carolina. Now, I've had very few interactions with Doug out of DP Custom Works. I don't believe I've ever met him unless he snuck by at one of the gun shows and I didn't know who it was, but I don't believe I've ever met him. I certainly haven't been to his shop and he hasn't been to my shop. We've never done a phone call. We've only done a couple of emails and they were always in question of services that are offered and things like that. It was always a work-related thing. It wasn't any sort of personal, conversation. With that being said, the actual work itself, and I did talk to the customer that dropped this off, isn't that bad, okay? It's not like something stands out and it's super crazy, horrible, something's incorrectly cut, something's wrong. It's really not it, okay? That's not the issue. I think, in my personal opinion, I think Doug does great work down there. I'm not pointing him out specifically in this video because he's the one that did this gun. You're going to hear me make a lot of references about the way in which you should be processing your orders, and his gun just happens to be here, but I'm not necessarily speaking about Doug or his work, okay? And I'll make sure that you guys are clear about that whenever I say something. So, guys, one of the first things that you're going to notice is it is very clean work. It looks good. There's no issues. We already went over that. Top serrations on here, side window shaved front sides, optic cut, black nitride coating, okay? Some of the issues that the customer had is there's tool marking underneath. I really won't say underneath the coating because this is a black nitride coating, which is actually in the metal. There's tool marking on the metal, and I will include some pictures. You can see it all in through the flat zone here, and you can see it through the flat zone on this side. So it's pretty bad over here. You guys can see that without even me putting a picture on there. So that's one of the complaints that the customer had, was quality of work really wasn't there for him. Now keep in mind, this is gun number 6. Okay, we never ran into any of these, and I'm not comparing myself to another vendor. I'm simply saying that maybe there's somewhat of an industry standard and the customer doesn't feel as though it was hit. Okay, so that's one of the things I want to say. The other thing I want to mention is these front serrations here have tails, and they're going to be hard to see, all the way down through here, and I'll include some pictures. There's little metal tails all the way down through here on the right side of the weapon. They're not over here on the left side. Okay, so this is just a matter of a cleanup. The downside is that wasn't cleaned up before it was sent out for black nitride. We process black nitride, okay? So, something like that's going to have to get cleaned, go back out at the beginning of the month, come back at the end of the month. It's a timely process. So making sure stuff is in order before it spends a month in the hands of another vendor to get a black nitride coating is very important. Now, is this something that was missed? Does he have an employee down there? Was somebody else that did the work? I don't know. I don't know anything about his business, okay? I'm not saying that was the case. I literally have no idea how this was skipped or why it was skipped, or maybe it was just a matter of Doug didn't see it as a problem. I'm not speaking for him. I'm just saying maybe that's how it left the shop that way. I don't know. Everybody has different levels of clarity and perfection, if you want to call it that way, and finesse. And maybe that's the normal finesse. I don't know. So once again, I'm not questioning it. I'm just simply saying that this is the pistol that left the shop. This is the one that I got in my hand from the customer, and it's underneath the coating, so it's not like this was something that happened afterwards. Let's now talk about the biggest issue at hand from the customer that they can't stand, and that's the logo. Okay? Now, I understand that there's a lot of companies out there that put logos on a lot of things. I do want to explain myself. I'm going to put this gun back on the hanger. Guys, I told you it was going to be a lengthy video, and I'm sorry about that, but I cannot explain it any better than just straight up explaining it how I see it. Okay? We got a logo on a slide. This was where the customer kind of flipped. Okay? And I don't mean like they were, crazy or anything, but this was the turning point in the project. That was the breaking point, okay? And it was, so you worked on my gun, you did awesome work, and all of a sudden, I've got a logo on my gun, okay? And when I say awesome work, I mean like some of the tooling and some of the stuff wasn't really seen at the shop because they were so focused on the one big elephant, so to speak, in the room, and that was the DP logo. Guys, I am not a big fan of logos. I know every shop, every individual sees this differently, okay? I know shops that are like, I'm going to put my logo on a barrel. I'm going to put it on the other side of the barrel in case the barrel's out of the gun. I'm going to put it on the frame. I'm going to put it on the slide. I'm going to put it on your case. If they could put it on your arm when you picked up the gun, they would stamp it on your arm. There are some shops that are like that. Then there is what I would consider to be just a good old standard. I'm going to brand my stuff and I'm going to put it on there, and that's kind of DP here, okay? There's nothing, we do see this a lot. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. What I'm saying to you is I don't see the logic in it, and I know a lot of people don't. There's a difference between asking for a logo. Hey man, I really like your business. I really like to support you. I want to show it off. Put your logo on there. Okay, that's one. Other option is, hey, here's your gun back. I gave you my logo. That's poor etiquette, in my opinion, and I'm only speaking for myself. Once again, guys, I told you I'm not going to sugarcoat this. And any company that's just going to stamp their logo on your gun without asking, I don't know, man. Like, I'm gonna leave it as, like, I'm not sure I'm gonna do business with you. I couldn't imagine, you know, I've used it in a couple of examples, but I couldn't imagine taking my vehicle to some place to get it serviced. Let's say I'm gonna get an exhaust put on, or I'm gonna get some rims put on, or I want to get my windows tinted or something. And all of a sudden, they take a, you know, a hot poker and they poke it in the side of my car and they permanently brand it, because this is a permanent brand. This isn't a sticker. Okay, this is a non-removable branding without another professional removing this. This is what this is. And I could not imagine that. Okay, it's different between putting a license plate bracket on than me, you know, literally going into the plastic bumper or whatever, or engraving your tailgate of your truck permanently without a professional removal. That's probably a no-go for me. Okay, I probably couldn't stand that. Guys, I want everybody to really understand where I'm coming from here. So I'm going to give you another example. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, man, I want to buy a Terran Tactical, their $6,000 gun or whatever. I really want their logo, I want their case. I get it. You want to buy what you consider to be the newest, latest, greatest. It's the Colt version of the plastic gun. You want to own it. You want to have a limited run. I get that. Okay, but that's not what this is. This is good old generic work that's offered day in and day out. It's not a limited run. It's not the same thing. I want to explain this a little better. Let's talk about this logo here for a second. We're going to use DP just because he's in front of us, but this is by no criticism to him, and I'll get to that a little bit more. What I'm getting ready to say, this doesn't have anything to do with DP. Okay, let's say this gun was done as you see it, right? Got a logo on it, and we'll switch the logo. We'll say it's Wetworks. Well, Wetworks hasn't been in business for 5 or 10 years, I don't think. So tell me about that resale value when you say, hey man, I'm looking to sell my gun, or I want to flip my gun, or whatever it is. So I paid a bunch of money to get it custom. Now the company's not in business anymore. As a buyer, that tells me, well, they must not have been very good, because the person that did the custom work on your gun doesn't even offer the service anymore, right? So now your resale value is actually less. Now let's change that. We have a lot of people that go, well, it's a limited run, and I know a lot of people are after things that they can't get anymore from good companies. Let's take Loki Tactical as an example. A lot of you guys have probably not heard of Wetworks, but you heard of Loki Tactical. Right? Loki's out there making awesome slides, doing their thing. All of a sudden, boom, they stop. Go to their webpage now. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. And that's no stab. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but that's no stab to Loki. Okay, they used to manufacture some awesome slides, right? They got logos and stuff on them and all this other stuff. But here we are. You don't actually do that anymore. You only offer, like, I think, stippling and some very small things anymore that are on the webpage. So tell me about the warranty on this slide. You know, I'm Mr. Buyer. I want to buy this gun secondary. Who'd you get the slide through? Has it got a lifetime warranty? Was there this or was there that? When was it done? You know, when was this Loki slide done? Well, I don't know. They haven't been doing slides for X amount of years. Maybe it was a first gen. Maybe it was like 2008 or 8 or 9 or 10. Maybe it was 2016 before they stopped doing it. I don't know. It really isn't very good encouragement to have that. Now, if you just like superly like the, you know, I'm over the top on Loki slides. I love them. I want to have it. Good. Go get it. But the difference is that at this point, the company's not in business and you're buying an item that has a logo on it. You're not having work done to have a logo put on it. Once again, two different things. There's a difference between adding a logo to work being done now, then of course you're buying something that from a company that no longer exists. Let's talk about another one. There's Tier Defense. There's another great example. Tier Defense is a company that was handling pistols and rifles, making really good stuff. To my understanding, once again, I'm not taking a stab at anybody. I'm not going out on a limb here. I'm not trying to insinuate anything or give you any kind of information that doesn't exist. But Tier Defense was one of those companies that had a person that was working internally for them. They somewhat stole either money, customers, or intellectual property, and the company kind of divided. Okay, I don't know whether that was in half or in third, but they kind of really slimmed down. You go to the webpage now, oh, we got services that are coming soon. We don't really have any pistol service here. You could start seeing, like, if you read between the lines of where they were to where they are, you can start seeing that all those things they were doing, they're really not doing, okay? So, once again, no disrespect to any of those companies that I've said, or DP customers. This is not what this video is about. This is an educational video letting you know who and what you're getting into, okay? I don't put my logo on anything. I don't put my logo on my own guns, and they're mine. Okay, I love my business, but I don't love it enough to brand it. I am a truist and a purist in the form of I want it to look the cleanest it possibly can. Okay, this is why you're going to hear me say I cannot stand companies that cut halfway through text. Doug did a great job on this. I want to give him, props on that. But I cannot stand companies that cut halfway through text. You see that a lot of times. You see these awesome pistols that are out there. There's a half a Glock logo left over, or there's like a 9x19, like the last 9s over here. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you seriously kidding me? Like, if I was a judge of some sort of show, like some baking show, I don't know how to bake, guys, but if it was Forged in Fire, and I'm standing there, and the guy makes something, and he leaves a half a logo. I'm like, you have to leave the forge. Your tribe has spoken. You need to put your little tiki torch thing or whatever it is up there, and you need to get the hell out, because that's not going to work. Okay, so that's another one of my gripes. It's logos and text. I'm sorry if I've offended any one of you that are a Survivor fan or a Forged in Fire fan. Whatever, it is what it is. With that being said, guys, we need to remove this logo. Okay, and we're going to put a gator here, and the reason why is because we're also going to be doing some sort of a reptile gator-ish stippling on here, and then we're going to go back to a coating on this. We're going to go back to a coating on the frame as well. So I'm going to do my best to clean up these areas in the front that you see here, and of course on this side. Sometimes stuff gets overlooked. Sometimes things just, they do sneak out the door. They are missed by accident. Sometimes we do things like Black Friday sales and we take in 180 guns, and little minute things do get skipped, okay? They don't get skipped here. They get skipped at somebody's company, but they don't get skipped here. But I can see how they get skipped when the work is abundant, okay? It's a shame when something's sent out for black nitride. It's such a long turnaround time, and then there's issues with the metal under the coating that really can't be fixed without doing it again, without literally fixing it and then waiting that period of time again, right? So that's kind of a no-no as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know. It just... Once again, sometimes things can happen. I've seen it on a lot of different companies out there. I've just seen little minute things, and they can get skipped. We try to not have those get skipped. We have a 5.0. So one of the things I want to say, and this is no bash to DP, I don't know much about him. I really don't. Like I said before earlier in the video, I haven't had a lot of conversations with him. I do know his Instagram and Facebook. He hasn't posted anything since March of last year. So we're coming up on a year, right? He has had a feedback that hit his Google review. I think he's got 4 or 5. I think we have like 60. And this isn't a comparison between us and him, but the difference is that his gun's here, right? So the idea behind all of this is that, the guy does phenomenal work. And if that's all you take from this video, I want you to know that, okay? But everybody has a bad day. Everybody has some sort of off thing. It has happened to me, okay? I don't want to make it sound like it doesn't happen. But the point being made is that if people don't know what they're getting into and they don't know who they're getting into it with, they can run into this. Okay, we do see a lot of damaged slides. We see a lot of low-key slides that have been cracked. A lot, actually. We've seen a lot of different slides that are out there that have issues and corrections that need to be made. Is this any kind of stab at any of those companies? No, not really. I could buy a car and it's got chips on it, but, that's not, General Motors' fault or Ford's fault. This is something that could have happened along the way. A lot of times on some of these small shops, though, it is a one-hand-on project, like it is here with us. You do expect the quality of work to be a little bit higher because it's not a whole abundance of people working on it. And, oh, hey, that must have left when, Nick worked here. That must have left when Jacob was part of working with us and not anymore. Like, that doesn't really happen with small shops like us. It probably doesn't. That's Doug's a small shop. So, don't be too hard on the guy. But the point I'm making is that if you have questions about something, and you're unsure, you should ask those questions. Hey, I see on your webpage that you haven't posted anything in a while. Is everything okay? I'm thinking about setting something in. Hey, I haven't seen anybody, post any Google reviews in a while. Is everything going on all right? Have you guys made some sort of change? I just want to make sure that I'm getting the highest quality work. Hey, I saw that all of your guns on the webpage have a logo. Is there a way for me to get my gun done without a logo? Right. So there's ways to circumvent the problem, but when this is what's handed back to the customer, it's like a fire that you threw gas on. Like it wasn't attempted to be corrected at the beginning, and maybe the customer was naive to that because they were expecting high quality work, and it also wasn't attempted to be corrected in the end on the way out. So this is a loss all the way around. So I'm the guy that's here to fix it. So that's kind of why we have a YouTube channel. That's kind of why we do what we do. Guys, once again, not going to sugarcoat any of the work. I'm sorry if I've offended you. I know that there's a lot of you guys that will get me, that you understand where I'm coming from. And I know there's a lot of guys that just hate me for hating me, and that's cool. You probably hated me before this video anyhow. It's awesome to see that you still have that love. So with that going on, let's remove this logo. We got a gator we're going on here. We got a stippling pattern here. And then one of the things I do want to mention is, I don't know if this was the customer or Doug. I can't imagine this was Doug because it wasn't colored, but this was, I think, maybe either a used gun and it had some marks on it, or this was just refitted for some sort of holster because it wasn't going in there. But you can see it's kind of rough right here. And we're going to see what we can do to correct that before we do it. I don't think we have any undercut work going on this particular pistol, but I'm going to see if I can just trim this out something a little bit better, because it's in my nature to do a correction on something that is easily corrected. So while it's here, we'll see what we can do with that. Guys, let's jump into the work and let's come back and see what we come up with. Welcome back, you guys. Everything has been completed. We were able to remove that logo. We added a new logo. We colored it. We did some frame work. Guys, you have seen that. I want to just briefly tell you that I'm going to try to keep the video as short as possible. Days have passed since the beginning recording, processing the work, coloring the pieces, and putting it back together. So my mindset hasn't changed a whole lot, but there are a couple things that I still want to discuss. We're going to try to keep this as short as possible. Let's review the work, and then I'm going to get into a couple of things that I want to talk about. So first and foremost, the logo replaced the DP section that was here. So one logo over another. We CNC cut that down. We laser texture filled it to raise the logo with the texture background. Overall, really, really nice. We're going to add some pictures in there if we haven't done so already, so you can see that just a little bit better in higher detail. The only other thing that we ended up doing to the slide was we ended up doing a correction over here on the burrs that were left over. See if we can get you in here a little bit better. And I'll include a picture of this as well. And of course, we did our best to try and clean up the front zones or the front shaved areas here. And then we colored the slide. That was pretty much it as far as the slide work goes. Let's jump into the frame. I know we've got some things to discuss, so I'm going to try to keep this thing under an hour, and we'll see what happens. So, framework, we ended up doing a side shave. Then we ended up doing this croc scale pattern here, right? Really pleased with the way that came out. If you watched our last video, we explained this a little bit better, this texture groove here, and why we don't always match the two. This is a really nice way to get an aggressive finger point, but the downside is that sometimes this area here is smaller on some guns than others, and taking this pattern and putting it over here really doesn't always transpose correctly, where we don't really get to see a lot of that pattern, and sometimes we're like, what is that? So we usually end up doing this generic piece here, which kind of flows with everything, and overall came out really, really nice. Let's take a look at the right side. So one of the things you're going to notice about our patterns that we don't just take an image and flip it to the other side. We actually create the pattern on all of our drawings. We create the pattern on left side, okay? And then we create it on the right side. One of the easiest ways you can tell is if you look up in here, you can see all these little small ones. And then, of course, if you look on this side, it's not. They're bigger ones. So it's the same pattern that's kind of been adjusted and rotated and moved a little bit, but it's not just a flip in a mirror. Okay, so we actually do want to make it somewhat unique. Obviously, in this particular pattern design, an animal's not going to have the exact same replicating mirrored, image from one side to the other. There is going to be some adjustments to there, just like your body is with your arms and your skin tones and things like that. Not everything is going to be a mirror. So it is a little bit more realistic than just a mirror from left to right and boom, we're done. So that's just not how we process it. Overall, real pleased. Guys, if you remember, we had a big gouge cut into the side of here. We ended up doing a correction on that. We didn't end up charging the customer. It's just one of those things. This is gun number 6, I think, for this guy. So we're just doing things. At this point in time, we do want to make this look the best we possibly can. Typically, that's not something we would just do, is go and do it. But we did need to make a correction. I know this guy fairly well, and he's going to be really pleased with the correction. So if you look at it, we've got the knuckle, and we've got a double undercut. One of the things that was more difficult was that this was such a gouge here into the middle that we don't typically do. This is kind of like a diamond we almost did here. So it's not bad. So that's kind of what it is. So in your hand, this guy has a lot of extra room up in here. And then of course, when you put your hand this way, you can either rest it here, or if you want to rest it here, you can rest it in either one of these positions. This is a service that we do offer. Typically, this wouldn't be a diamond point in the center. It's just it was so cut on that one edge inward that we had to, you know, come up with something that made the most sense. Guys, let's put this thing together. Once again, as you know, I'm behind the camera, so I can't really even quite get it in here right. There we go. Let's move this out of the way. I'm going to grab a hanger. We'll be able to put that on here in a moment. Guys, as a whole, I'm really pleased with the way that it came out. I think the design looks really, really nice, considering where we came from. Excuse me. Of course, we had, you know, frame wear. This is a coating that we do in-house. It's as the same as the slide, so we end up getting back to somewhat of a matching pattern, something that looks just a little bit nicer than the factory look. Of course, once we start cutting into things and sandblasting things, we need to do a coating. Guys, I want to take and talk about a few things, and then I want to kind of leave you on your own. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I've been talking all day. All right, guys. Typically, I would do a review at the end, building the pistol and going right straight through in one shot. I've been talking an absolute ton today, and my throat's kind of shot. There are some things I want to go over with you guys. A couple things that are still kind of on my mind about this. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to build it and explain it. You guys can stop here if you don't want to hear my thought process, as you guys got to have an overview of what we did with this. But if you do want to hear the rest of my thoughts, let's take you guys through that. Okay, first and foremost, I'm not trying to be super rude, not trying to sugarcoat anything all at the same time. I've said that a couple times through the video. I'm going to do my best to say what I mean and mean what I say and not be extremely aggressive with it, okay? First, let's talk about the cut work on the slide here, and then we're going to go into a couple more things. You know, anybody that's been cutting metal for any period of time, even if you're just an apprentice in a shop, you've taken shop at school, you've done anything else, you know that it's not really hard to correct a problem if you're doing it while you're doing it, okay? And what I mean by that is, you know, we've got cut marks that are still left over under the coating. I did my best to remove these, but at the same time, this should have been done when it was in the machine. This is a super easy correction. Anybody should know how to do this. You know, Doug at DP's got 18 years of cut work, and this is something that's a rookie should know how to do. When this is in the machine, you see some cut marks like this. You're like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got some cut marks. Simple. Swap out the cutter to a new cutter, bring it down 1 thou, and let it run the pass again. It's going to skim that bottom, and you're going to have a nice smooth finish on the bottom with a brand new cutter. It's not that hard. It doesn't take that long for perfection, okay? Instead of chasing a problem, trying to figure out a correction, why don't you just set the machine up with a new cutter, hit go do something for 20 minutes, come back, and you're happy. Everyone's happy. You're not chasing a problem. Customer's not looking at issues. It's a done deal, okay? It's really annoying when you're off to fixing something from someone else when the work really wasn't that hard in the first place. Let me give you a great example of that. Something like this is like you took your car into the shop, you needed to get a tire replaced on it because it's got a problem. All of a sudden, they sell you a tire and there's an issue with it when they mount it, okay? They've damaged your sensor maybe. You know, lots of new cars out there have sensors that tell you pressure of your tire. They damage the sensor when they put the tire on, okay? They know very well that so many miles are going to go down the road before that sensor doesn't read anymore because it's just tumbling around inside there and it goes dead. But instead of pulling the tire off and putting a new sensor on, they just put the tire back on the car and say, you're good to go. Well, now this is a problem, okay? Because the car's already in the shop having the work done. You don't know anything about it until you get it back. You may not even know about it till later on down the road. And then all of a sudden you're here going, you know, my right front tire doesn't tell me how much PSI is in my tire anymore. The sensor's broken off. Okay, well then you take it into the same shop or even a different shop. You're probably mad at this point. And they say, yeah, the tire was damaged whenever they mounted the new tire on the rim, and they knocked it off, and it's just been flopping around in there, and it's $52 to replace it or whatever. Point being made is that this is where the original shop should have owned up, done the work correctly, and sent you on your way correctly. Not you found a problem. How do I correct the problem? Now I got to have a third-party company fix a problem. Can they fix the problem? That's a no-go, guys. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't care who did the work, how the work was done. I don't care if I did it or somebody else did it. That is not good quality craftsmanship. Label it however you want to label it. Don't do that, okay? Because it's 9 times out of 10, more work trying to be corrected or in the end is nothing but a hassle, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth for whoever originally did the work. Wanted to get that out, just something I wanted to say. Sorry if I came off as being too rude. Something else I want to say is logos, okay? You may or may not agree with me. I get that. This is a wide-ranged subject. We could go anything from a single logo to plaster logos to logos on everything to logos only on one small thing. I get it. There are so many variables to this conversation that not one example is going to fit everything. I fully understand that, okay? But I want to say something. A lot of times people will put logos on stuff because they're either proud of their work, they want to advertise their work. I mean, those are the two number one reasons that I can see why people do it, okay? Be careful of that. You know, if you are looking to have work done and they're plastering their logo all over everything because they're trying to generate more work, you know, I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing because I know a lot of companies do that. What I am simply saying is that there's a lot of people also like me that don't put their logo on stuff. We're not out fetching work. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to get you in the lineup. It's really quick. And, you know, you don't have to have that extra branded name on your gun to achieve the same thing. Okay? Once again, wide range of, you know, what's acceptable and what is not acceptable. Once again, I do want to explain one thing. I want to say something one more time for those of you that might not have caught it. Those of you who might have fast forwarded through the video, didn't want to watch the whole thing. There is a difference between purchasing an item with a logo and having service work done on something and then branded. Okay? Those are two totally different things. You're buying yourself a Norso slide. Awesome, there's a name on it. You bought a product. Okay? If you go and buy an iPad, it's going to say Apple. If you go and buy a TV, it's going to say LG or whatever brand you bought. You all right? It's not going to be a non-branded product because it's a product you're buying, not a service, a product. If you're having service work done, that's a little different. Okay? I couldn't even comprehend taking my Samsung TV into a repair shop and all of a sudden it comes out with Billy Bob's TV Repair branded on the side of it because that's who you had it serviced through. It doesn't even make any sense. I couldn't even give you an example of how it would make sense because it doesn't make any sense. So that's something to take into consideration, okay? It just doesn't make any sense. Something else I want to talk about before we get off this topic. I know the video's getting long. Sorry, this is more of a talk about video. I probably could have sat down and talked to you guys for hours. I've got so much in my head. One of the things I want to talk about is shops offering work, okay? So, and that's basically the general topic there. And that is, whether you're in North Carolina, you're in Texas, you're in some other state, I don't care where you are, you walk into a shop, hey, I want to get my gun done for an optic cut, I want to get some serrations, I want to get a window, I want to get whatever. Are they the one doing the work, or is that work being processed through someone else? Okay? And there's so many different ways in which this can fail. And I mean that by, you walk into the shop, hey, I want to get it stippled. Yes, we can do that work. All of a sudden, it goes, gets shipped out to another company. The company does the work. There's something wrong with the work. And does that local shop take care of that? Do you have to work with that third-party company to have that repaired, or something you don't see eye to eye on? Like, I mean, as a consumer, how are you solving this problem? And is the company you paid for the service, whether they're doing the service or not, are they on your side or are they on the other person's side? There's so much room for failure here that it's not even funny. I mean, literally, you're probably going to get burnt somewhere along the way if this is how you're doing it, okay? Pay attention. Before you walk into that shop, go to their webpage. Look at some of the stuff. If you're specifically going, I want to get an optic cut, I want to get something colored, I want to get something done, look at their pictures. If they don't have pictures on the webpage, one, there's an indication either they don't really advertise. Doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, but they're not advertising. Check their Instagram, check their Facebook, right? You don't have to just be their webpage. Two,
there's the possibility that they're not advertising because of something, some reason, right? And it's not always quality of work. Sometimes the quality of work is high. They may not be advertising because they have a DP logo on the side. Somebody else is actually doing their work, so they can't advertise. Maybe they're not advertising because they don't do the work in-house. They don't do stippling in-house because they don't have a laser. So they don't, you really aren't getting those answers until you walk through that door. So there's a lot of different things. Just make sure that if you want to have the work done, that company is doing the work. Let me back up. I want to say something else. I know I know what you're thinking. Third-party vendors. There's nothing wrong with using a third-party vendor. We've done this for years. We've used black nitride. We've used companies for titanium nitride. We've used several different companies before we were Cerakoting. We had a company doing Cerakoting, right? So we've gone down this path, right? And there's nothing wrong with using a third-party vendor as long as a business, I'm speaking as a business here, you're on the side of your customer, okay? When that gun comes through the door, that is like my baby, okay? At that point, the customer has been moved to the side. Everything you see here in this hand is mine. And when it goes to a third-party company, that company is going to deal with me like that's mine, okay? And if that means I've got to drive halfway across the country to punch somebody in the throat because there's a problem, you bet I'm going to do it. Because that's the way we process something. If there's a problem, I'll guarantee you're never going to find out about it. Because I'm already going to have jumped down the throat of the person that caused the problem way before you haven't figured it out. And that's the guy you want on your team. Because you know when you dropped it off, what you're getting when you left. Okay? Make sure that that's what you're getting. I'm not saying you have to do all your work through us. Guys, we do a lot of work for a lot of people. That goes from individuals, local, that ship in, and that also goes for companies. Okay, we do a lot of business work for companies. There's a lot of really good companies out there. There are, okay? I'm not going to name any. I mean, if I was just going to pick a couple of them, I'd probably say JagerWorks, I'd probably say Norso, I'd probably say maybe the Glock store. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of experience with these, but these are big name people, right? So they must be doing pretty good. What I'm saying is when you go into a small shop and you think you're getting something, make sure you actually are. Do your homework. Or you're going to walk out the door with something that you paid for, and then it's going to come into another shop and it's going to get corrected and you're going to have paid twice because you didn't do your homework. Okay? Don't be the guy that didn't do his homework because you're the guy that's going to end up paying more than what the service is actually probably worth because you had to have two people get involved to do it. That's all I'm going to say. Once again, I want to leave on a note that says follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. If you still like us, you may not like us anymore. I'm not trying to do controversial videos. I'm not trying to build stuff or, that causes problems. But when the customer walks through the door and says, hey man, you really need to educate people on this topic and specifically about this company, I'm going to do that. I mean, that is what they asked for. That is what they recommended. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody or anyone specifically, but this was a gun that came out of a shop. Undeniably, it left and it got into my hands, and that's what it looked like. I showed it to you guys before we did any of the work on it. Obviously, other than maybe some of the trigger work on the bottom side, this is how it left a gun shop of 18 years experience. I don't have any other way to say it than that. If somebody gets mad because they don't see eye to eye with that, I'm sorry, then you don't like the facts. Because that's what I gave you. I didn't tell you this story based off of an opinion on most of it. I gave you this story based off of facts, okay? I gave you my opinion on a lot of things on how I think you should process your stuff, but when it came right straight down to this gun and this cut work and what the correction was, those are facts, guys. Cut work was bad, issues with some of the other stuff. It is what it is, what it is. I can't correct that, right? With that being said, guys, follow along, like, subscribe. I haven't decided if the video comments are going to be open or not. This is not some kind of a bash it video. This was an educational video. I'm hoping as a consumer, you want to have something done. I'm hoping that you spend a little bit more time. You ask those questions that we've discussed before, that you take the time and make sure that you're doing things correctly and you're not wasting your money on something that could come back to bite you. So with that being said, hopefully this has been a little bit more educational. We've got some other videos that are going to be coming out. They're not going to be anywhere near as fun as this video. We're actually probably going to do cut work in those, so you'll have to see something that we're actually going to do and not so much talking. But if you do happen to agree with me, or at least partially agree with me, give me a thumbs up. If you just straight up hate me, and there's a couple of you do, give me the thumbs down, which I don't have to tell you that, you already know that. As far as everything else goes, looking forward to working on some other projects, and let's just see what we come up with in the future.